message was only 3 words, sent in the middle of a bright, ordinary morning that was about to change everything. A single dad stared at his phone in a crowded office elevator as the doors slid open to the sharp glare of daylight, unaware that one small mistake would unravel the walls he had built around his lonely heart. He had meant to send it to his daughter. Instead, it went to his boss. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Whisper Tales 3, because stories like this remind us how one fragile moment can transform a life. Armaan Qureshi had not planned on becoming both mother and father before the age of 32. Life had carved that role into him the day his wife passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him with a 3-year-old daughter named Meher, and a silence that never truly faded. Every morning since then had been a careful balancing act. He would wake before sunrise, pack a small pink lunchbox with unevenly cut fruit, braid Meher's hair with clumsy fingers, and rush through Karachi's sunlit streets to drop her at daycare before reaching the corporate tower where he worked as a junior financial analyst. The building was all glass and steel, reflecting the harsh afternoon sun like it had no room for softness. Inside, everything moved fast. Deadlines, presentations, performance reviews. Armaan moved through it quietly, carrying his grief like an invisible briefcase. He avoided personal conversations, declined team lunches, and focused only on numbers. Numbers were safe. Numbers did not ask why he looked tired. Numbers did not notice when his hands trembled after a sleepless night spent calming a child who cried for her mother. His boss, Samira Khanna, was known throughout the firm for her precision and discipline. She walked through the office each day in crisp pastel suits, sunlight catching in her neatly tied hair, her presence commanding silence. Employees respected her, some feared her, and no one knew much about her life beyond the office walls. Armaan certainly did not. To him, she was simply the person whose approval determined whether he could afford Meher's school fees next year. That morning had been harder than most. Meher had woken up feverish but insisted on going to daycare because it was craft day. She had wrapped her tiny arms around Armaan's neck before he left, whispering that she would miss him. He had smiled and promised to text her during lunch like he always did, even though she was too young to read. The daycare teacher would read his messages aloud. By noon, sunlight flooded through the office windows, illuminating dust particles that drifted lazily in the air. Armaan finally sat down with his phone during a short break. His mind was still with his daughter, picturing her small hands holding crayons. Without thinking, he typed 3 simple words, "I miss you." He pressed send. Only when he looked down again did his heart slam against his ribs. The message had not gone to the daycare number. It had gone to Samira Khanna. For a few seconds, the world seemed to tilt. His breath grew shallow. In an office where professionalism was everything, such a message could be misunderstood in countless ways. He imagined awkward glances, disciplinary meetings, perhaps even losing the job that kept his daughter safe. His fingers hovered over the phone, considering a follow-up explanation, but shame rooted him in place. Minutes later, his desk phone rang. The caller ID displayed her name. Armaan walked to her glass-walled office, feeling as though each step echoed too loudly on the marble floor. The afternoon sun poured in from behind her desk, making it difficult to read her expression. She held her phone in one hand. She did not sound angry. She did not look offended. Instead, there was something softer in her eyes, something almost startled. She asked him if he had meant to send the message to someone else. Armaan swallowed and explained, his voice barely steady, that it was meant for his daughter. He apologized more than once, feeling heat creep up his neck. What happened next surprised him more than the mistake itself. Samira did not reprimand him. She did not dismiss him coldly. Instead, she asked about his daughter. She asked how old she was, whether she liked school, whether she was feeling better. Her questions were quiet but sincere, as if they carried their own hidden ache. When Armaan mentioned that Meher had been running a fever that morning, he saw Samira's composure shift almost imperceptibly. Later that day, she approved his request to leave early without hesitation. She told him family came first. The words felt unfamiliar in that corporate environment, almost out of place against the backdrop of ringing phones and clicking keyboards. Over the next few weeks, something subtle changed. Samira began stopping by Armaan's desk occasionally, not to discuss spreadsheets, but to ask about Meher's health or her latest drawing. She adjusted meeting times when she knew he had daycare pickups. The office noticed the difference, whispering about favoritism, but Armaan knew it was something else. It was empathy. One afternoon during a company charity event held in bright daylight at a local community center, Armaan brought Meher along because daycare had closed early. Meher clung shyly to his leg until Samira knelt down in her immaculate suit and offered her a juice box. The sight startled Armaan. The formidable executive looked unexpectedly gentle, sunlight softening her features as she listened to Meher describe her favorite cartoon. That was when he learned that Samira had once had a child too, a son who had lived only a few months, a loss she never spoke about at work because she believed strength meant silence. Seeing Armaan juggle work and fatherhood had reopened something in her heart she had carefully locked away. The accidental message had not been inappropriate, it had been a reminder that behind performance metrics and polished reputations, people carried invisible stories. Months passed and Armaan's work improved, fueled not by fear but by gratitude. He no longer felt alone in the building of glass and steel. Samira introduced flexible scheduling policies for parents in the office, citing productivity research, though everyone sensed it was personal. The culture slowly shifted. Colleagues began sharing their own struggles. Laughter returned to break rooms that once felt sterile. On a warm afternoon nearly a year later, Armaan received an award for outstanding performance. Meher sat in the front row of the small ceremony, swinging her legs proudly. As he stood at the podium under the bright lights, he realized how close he had once come to losing everything over 3 misplaced words. Before the story ends, please comment and tell us about a small mistake in your life that unexpectedly led to something beautiful. When Armaan thanked Samira publicly for believing in him as both an employee and a father, there was a quiet understanding between them. They had both learned that vulnerability was not weakness, it was connection. As the sun dipped low but still filled the room with golden light, Armaan glanced at his phone and typed the same 3 words again, this time to the right number. I miss you. Meher responded with a voice note full of giggles, saying she would see him soon. He smiled, no longer afraid of those words. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and engage with the video so more people can be reminded that kindness can grow from the smallest accidents. Because sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary daytime mistake, life whispers back and gives you a second chance to be seen.